Today we're going to show you how to install a plug-and-play blow-off valve on your F30 335 to make it sound like this. Hey, this is Brian. Thanks for watching Kies Motorsports. If you like our videos, give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe and check us out at kiesmotorsports.com. We are super excited for today's video, and I know you're going to be excited as well because in our hand, we have the world's first plug-and-play blow-off valve for the F30 335. Now, before we get started, let's talk about where this blow-off valve is going to get installed. So on the table, we have my stock turbocharger from my F30 N55, and basically it's mounted like this over here on the passenger side of your motor. Down here, you're going to have your inlet installed, and then underneath, in this location right here, is where your diverter valve is. Now, your factory diverter valve is going to be mounted right here. It's a little plastic piece with a rubber plunger. Now, one of the reasons you want to upgrade is because that plunger can start to not hold as much boost over time. Now, the primary responsibility is it's going to release boost if there's too much to help regulate the boost pressure. Now, typically what it does with that extra boost pressure is it puts it back into the system, but what makes this different is, as you can see, there's a little cutout. It has a vent to atmosphere option. So what it's doing is it's going to be venting to atmosphere, and it's also going to be recirculating a certain amount as well to give you the best of both worlds, but the coolest part is you're going to get that blow-off sound. Now, where this needs to get installed on the car is extremely tight, so what we wanted to do is we wanted to show you what's going to be happening with this turbo on the table, just in case you can't quite see what's happening. So basically what we're going to do, there's going to be 3 different bolts. You're going to remove those. Again, they're in a very tight spot. You're going to simply install this piece just like that, and then you're going to use the new hardware, and you're going to install these 3 bolts. After that, you're going to plug in the connection to the OEM connection, and you're all set. Let's get the car up in the air. We're going to remove the underbody paneling, and then we're going to get started. Now, before we begin, we do want to let you know that we have done this on our backs on the ground, but for camera angles, it's going to be a lot easier for you to see what's going on. But just because we're using a lift, don't be afraid to do this on a jack and jack stands. Okay, with the car up in the air, we can now see that there's no space, so we need to make some space. So to do that, what we're going to do is we are first going to unplug our water pump, and the reason that we're going to do that, so here's the plug right there, you just press in on this little tab, and this will wiggle out just like that. Make sure to reinstall this once you're done, or your water pump won't work and your engine will overheat and fry. We need to get the water pump out of the way. So what we're going to do now is we are going to take an E14, which is an E-Torx, if you're not familiar with that. There are 2 bolts that hold the water pump in from the bottom, and there's also 1 at the top. So at this time, we're going to release those, and what that's going to do is it's going to give us enough wiggle room to be able to just maneuver this, maybe down a little bit, maybe over to the right a little bit, maybe up a little bit. We're not completely removing it, so it's still going to be in the way, but if we can maneuver it around, it's going to give us a lot better access. What I typically like to do for the bottom ones is I just go right through here. So if you want to get a shot in there, let me grab my phone real quick. So if you look through this hole right here where we're shining the light, I'm just going by feel, but there is an E14 right here, and then there's one to the left of it. I don't know if we're gonna be able to see this, right back here. So again, if you go through here, you have a clean shot. These are actually the easy 2 to remove. The one on top is a little bit more difficult. So let's start with these 2, we'll remove them, and then I'll show you how to get to the top one. All right, here's 1. So that's what you're going to be looking for. They're pretty small. We'll go in for the second one. Number 2. Now for the top one, What I found is the best way to do it is to go in at this angle, and I have a swivel on it with the E14, and then you can get it on and you can start to loosen it. If you try to go from the front, especially if you have an upgraded turbo to intercooler charge pipe, is a huge pain in the butt. So this is by far the easiest way, and it's still a little bit challenging. So here's my little rig here. I have a swivel, my E14, and what I do is I go up through here and I stick my other hand up this way, and I get it over the water pump, and then my other hand goes up here and just tries to find the bolt, guides it on, and then you can just continue that way. All right, bolt number 3. Now, if you get in a situation where you just can't get your hand in, you're getting frustrated, what you can also do is use a 10 mil. As you can see, an E14 is pretty much a 10 mil. So if you have a little wrench like this or something, and maybe that's easier for you to get up there, you can use that as well. Now it's about to get super tight, and as you can probably see from this camera, we're filming on Zach's iPhone, so we apologize for any quality lacking there, but otherwise it's just gonna be impossible to get in here. What we need to do now is we need to unplug the diverter valve. There's this plastic clip that slides on. To release it, there's a little metal bar. So you push the metal bar in, and then you pull the clip off. This is probably gonna be impossible to see, but I'm just gonna do my best to reach up. I can't even really see where it is. I have to just do it by feel. So we'll go in here. I feel the diverter valve. There it is, it's up here. All right, so there's a little bar that you push in, and you slide it off. Now, I'm not sure if you can see my hand or not, but this is the little bar. There's a little bar that you push in, and then that's what's going to have that secured in place. So this is a better shot of where the plug clips in, just so you can see what we're talking about. So when we do this, my tool of choice is one of these Allen bits. It actually fits on a 3/8 ratchet, as you can see, and it has a ball tip. So the cool thing about this is even if you can't get it perfectly straight, it normally still has pretty good bite. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna start with the one I can see. We'll start easy and then we'll get harder. And it is on the top left, it looks. So I'm gonna stick this over the water pump. Okay, got it. And just start to slowly twist that out. All right, so once you loosen it, what I do is I take the ratchet off and then I just do it by hand. It makes it 1,000 times easier. So this one looks like it's coming out pretty good. Actually, I have it completely out. I'm gonna try not to drop it. All right, bolt number 1. Now, just for reference, this was from a GoFastBits. The size, let's see what size this is. Looks like it is a 5 mil. We got one out, let's do the others. So let's see which one we want to do. All right, so I can see the bottom one from over here, so let's see if we can get a good angle on the bottom one. All right, so what we did there, we just broke it loose, and then again, I'm going to untwist it without the ratchet. Now, if you're removing a factory diverter valve, you don't really have to worry about this, but if you're removing a GoFastBits, and nothing against GoFastBits, just, by the way, we're just upgrading to the blow-off valve. You wanna make sure that you keep in mind that it's going to be in 2 parts as soon as I get that next bolt out. So just something to be conscious of. Now it's really tight for me to get in there, so I'm going to release these plastic clips, and I'm going to move this coolant line ever so slightly, just so I can see what's going on. All right, so that gives me a little bit more to work with. All right, and then just like we did with the other ones, we got this top one undone, and I'm just doing it by hand now after I broke the initial seal, we'll call it. Yep. All right, I dropped the bolt, which is not a bad thing. I'm going to reach up now and remove the diverter valve. Like I said before, make sure that when you do it, you remove both parts. Okay. There it is there. All right, so here is a side-by-side comparison of the one that we removed from the car and also the new blow-off valve that we're installing today. So the cool thing about this, I mean, the most impressive thing is that it's a one-piece design and it's complete plug and play. That's what I really like about it. It's cool, it's got the same electronic connection and everything. So at this time, let's bolt it up, put the car back together, and see how it sounds. Now, before we get started with our new ones, what I like to do is I like to use some electrical tape, or this is Tessa tape. It's more for wiring and whatnot. And I put the screw on here. And then what I do is I just very lightly loop it on there like that. And what this is going to do, I'll put a little flap so I can get it off again, is when I'm feeding this through a super tight area, if I nip and bump something, I'm not gonna drop it and have to go fishing for it like I had to do with the GoFastBits. So let's feed this up here. All right, so when we install it, we're gonna put it in like this, just for reference. All right, so I'm gonna feed this up through here. Just be very careful with it. You don't wanna get any dirt or anything on it. Just carefully navigate it into place. You may need to pull the water pump back just to be able to get it in here. And what we could do is we can feed our screw up here. All right, so I have the bolt through the blow-off valve. Now I'm just lining everything up. All right, so as you can see, we have our first bolt lined up. And we're not gonna go crazy tight. We just wanna snug it up so that it holds the blow-off valve in place. Okay, there we go. Then you're basically going to follow the reverse order from the removal and just continue to work your way and reinstall all of these bolts. Our camera died a little while ago, but we wanted to show you the trick on how to get that top bolt, because it is a huge pain in the butt. Out of a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the easiest, 10 being the hardest, this is like a 38 to get this bolt. And it's all about just finding the right angle. Once you find the angle, it's not terrible, but it will still probably take you a while, even though you might know the angle. So if you look up here, you'll be able to see how high my extension and my swivel are. What you need to do is you need to go at a pretty severe angle. And again, the trick is to use the Allen key with the ball head on it, because you're gonna, I'll put my phone down. You're gonna basically be going down at an angle like this. There's like an oil line like right in the way. So it prevents you from going straight on. But if you can go down at that angle, just take your time. It's very doable. At first it seems like it's gonna be impossible because it's hard to get out, but it's even harder to get back in. So just something to know. Right now, we're going to torque everything down and then we're going to reassemble. The other thing, when the camera shut off, we just dropped off the stiffening plate. It's just held in by a bunch of 13mm bolts. And when you do that, you just have a little bit better visibility under here. You can't really grab or hold anything from under there, so it doesn't really help, but it helps you just figure out where you're gonna go. The other trick that we like to use is if you have, say, an iPhone or something, what you can do is if you go to video mode, I'll just show you here real quick. If you go to video and you have the flash on, the flash is on, so when you're trying to move it around and see what you're doing, you have a picture and then it's also lighting it up. So very technical automotive tool that we use. So at this point, we're gonna torque everything down. And when you're doing this, just make sure that you torque everything evenly. We're gonna plug it in, we'll reinstall the water pump, we'll plug it in, put the stiffening plate back on, and then we'll go for a test drive. Then once you have everything torqued down, do not forget to plug it in. We're gonna finish installing our water pump. Do not forget to plug your water pump in. If you forget to plug it back in, your car's gonna overheat. So make sure that you plug that in. Put these bolts back in, your water pump bolts, torque them down. We're gonna put everything else together. And most exciting part, we're gonna see how the car sounds. All right, so what we did is we actually installed the blow-off valve, although I'm wearing the same shirt and hat. We did that last week, and then I drove around on it for a week because I wanted to make sure that I got a really good impression. We didn't want to just hop in the car and give you the super immediate reaction. We wanted to really test it out, make sure that we weren't losing boost and things like that. But overall, this thing is amazing. As you'll hear, if you haven't already heard, it sounds really, really good. The cool thing is it's very subtle. So if you have your windows up, you might not even really notice it. So to notice it the most, what you want to do is just put your window down on your passenger side about an inch or so, and then you'll hear a big whoosh. I mean, even if, we'll just go in 5th gear here, you can still hear it completely fine with the windows up and the radio off. But if you want to really hear it, put your window down a little bit, and it's pretty loud. But like I said, it's a very refined sound. It's not obnoxious. It doesn't sound like an old SRT4 ripping down your street. Now, one of the first things that we noticed when we put it on is even after upgrading from an upgraded diverter valve, I really felt like this one had a lot better throttle control and throttle response. It was very noticeable to me as soon as I did it. Now, I will say, one concern that I had was that if I was going to be venting to atmosphere instead of recycling the excess boost, that I was going to lose power. And I didn't feel that at all. And I talked to Turbosmart actually before we even did this one, because there's another version that doesn't vent to atmosphere. And they said, don't worry about it, you're not gonna lose any power. And I was a little hesitant, but I mean, this thing is amazing. It's held boost, which I know that the OEM one can struggle to do, especially if you're running upgraded turbos. It sounds cool, it looks cool. It's a pain in the butt to install, but I mean, all things considered, this was definitely a great upgrade, especially for the money. So what Zach and I did is we were driving around town and we took my microphone off and we put it under the engine bay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna play some clips for you, and we're gonna notate at the bottom of the screen if the audio was from under the engine bay or if it was from in the cabin here. So as you just heard, the Turbosmart blow-off valve is incredible. And I wish I did it to my car back when I did my turbo. I love the throttle response, I love the sound. The build quality is amazing. It's all one solid piece, it's all plug and play. I haven't found a downside to it yet, and I'm super happy. Now, if you're interested in one for your car, we do have links down in the description where you can get yours. But anyway, once again, my name is Brian. Thanks for watching Kies Motorsports. If you like our videos, give us a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and check us out at KiesMotorsports.com for all your BMW retrofit, performance, and aesthetic needs. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.